The Hoop Heads Podcast is brought to you by Head Start Basketball.
Hi, this is Coach Pascal Meurs from Belgium, and you're listening to the Hoop Heads Podcast.
Hey Hoopheads! Wanted to take a minute to shout out our partners and friends at Dr. Dish Basketball. Their Dr. Dish shooting machines are undoubtedly the most advanced and user-friendly machines on the market, and they truly accelerate skill development faster than ever. Learn more at drdishbasketball.com and follow their incredible content at Dr. Dish B-Ball on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Mention the Hoopheads Podcast and save an extra $300 on the Dr. Dish Rebel, All-Star, and CT models. Also, make sure to check out the new Dr. Dish Home Machine, which is perfect for these crazy times when gyms and schools are closed. Visit drdishbasketball.com for details. That's a great deal, Hoopheads. Get your Dr. Dish shooting machine today.
It's tip-off time with Coach Greg White.
Hello and welcome to the Hoopheads Podcast. It's Mike Klinzing here without my co-host Jason Sunkel tonight, but I am pleased to welcome for 4 quarters, number 6, Greg White from Bentonville West High School in Arkansas. Greg, welcome back.
Hey, it's good to be here, man. This has been a lot of fun. I hope people aren't getting tired of hearing this. But
I can't believe we're at number 6 and your 7th total episode. I think you've definitely taken the lead on most appearances on the Hoopheads pod. So if nothing else, you can stick that on your resume at some point.
It actually is on my resume.
All right, there you go.
I'll send you that one night. Yeah.
Not that it'll be worth the paper that it's printed on, but at any rate.
Well, I email it out now, so we're
there you go. Nice. All right, that's good. We're not killing any trees and sending out the resume, so that's a positive. All right, let's begin with quarter number 1, where in many cases around the country, no AAU basketball, although it seems like there are going to be some states that are going to allow some form of AAU basketball to be played. Just explain what you think the impact will be with a lot of places in the country not being able to play any AAU this summer.
First thing I want to do, Mike, is clear something up. I think I've come across to a lot of people as being anti-AAU. And I'm not anti-AAU. I'm anti-bad basketball on every level. There's so many good AAU programs. I've actually got have a blog coming out this week on why we need AAU. And for this very reason, like right now there is no AAU, which means it's really hard on recruiting. College coaches are having, most of the good ones are ahead. I think they're really not. I think they're catching up on some family time, on some staff things, some staff development. But most of them aren't. The panic was, what about this class? Well, the guys that are doing their job already had this class, identified. I mean, yeah, there may be a sleeper here and there, but I think we need AAU. And I think it's cost for a few reasons. Number one is it's best on best. When you think of the EYBL, and those guys, it's best on best. You get to see the best players go head to head in a lot of games. The second thing is, and you guys know I'm big on this. Most of these tournaments play the shot clock, and until the federation gets on board, Georgia just passed it, Arkansas is voting this year. Until the federation, I tell guys this: if you hate summer basketball, then have a shot clock in high school. And I tell the club coaches, keep having a shot clock because that's what separates you from high school basketball, and so I think we need it. I think we're going to see a drop in skill. Speaking for, I've had players that have not played, but had a great summer of workouts. And then I've had players that play and come back as a totally different player. I think you're going to see a little bit of a drop off in the high school season by not having AAU because, whatever your restrictions are in your state, for us, we can't have competition right now. And competition is healthy and competition breeds better competition. So no AAU it's going to be a bigger thing than people think. I know there's probably people like, who is this guy? They're going to be looking at the podcast title to make sure it's me because, for a while everybody thought I was anti-AAU, but I'm just anti-bad basketball. I'm anti-people that take advantage of parents and kids, whether it's high school coaches, whether it's club coaches. but I think we need it. And I think we're going to see some, not on the college part of missing scholarships or things like that, but I do think you're going to see some kids come back not as prepared as they could have been. Yeah,
I agree with you there 100%. I think I look at the kids that I know just in my local area, and my son's going to be a freshman this year, and he misses out on his entire AAU season. And at this point, he played his last competitive basketball game against other people in February. And now he's not going to play again, provided that we even have a season. He's not going to play again until November. And yeah, he's right now here in the state of Ohio. They just opened up what we're calling phase 2, where there can be inter-squad competition where they can play against one another within the confines of their own team. And then the next step would be to be able to go and play against other teams from this local area. But I don't know if we're going to get to that phase, or who knows, we might end up going backwards based on the news that we're hearing now about the number of cases that are out there. But for my son and for kids who are like him that finished their season at the end of the high school year, and now they may not have played a competitive game. And I know you and I have had the conversation about our kids play too many games. And I think in a lot of cases that's true. But in this case, when they haven't played at all, there's no way that even, I don't care how hard you're working on your skills as a high school athlete during the summertime, you still have to be able to play some games, whether that's pickup games, whether that's AAU games. If you're not playing against live competition for 6 months, 7 months, whatever it's going to be in between seasons, I think you're right that you're going to come back and you're going to see a decided lack of skill development, a lack of basketball IQ that the kids are just missing out on. You're never going to get these as a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid. You're never getting these 7 months back of what would have been AAU basketball.
No, you're correct. And I think we're going to see a change in the recruiting landscape. I think there'll be more of a, not really a balance, but I think there'll be more diversity in recruiting, where you're going to see high school summer team camps are going to be a bigger thing with the NCAA coaches. I think there's always going to be, some of the big tournaments, what I would call them, the EYBLs, and that's the thing too. Like, the summer guys get a bad rep, and and I've probably been guilty of it too, because I laugh when I see AAU bingo. But well, the funny thing is you never see the EYBL guys on that, and that's what I tell people is like AAU is is the catch-all, right. And it's like you don't call every car a Cadillac. Like Mocan is a very prestigious Nike team, and we've had a player play for them, and I'm in contact with their coaches trying to find players that we could send to them. And on the girls' side, the Arkansas Banshees is a program here that, like, those dudes, those coaches they're good as gold. They work hard. They care about kids. And so I think it's kind of a big umbrella. But I'll tell you this, like, the programs that are doing it for the right reasons are doing the same things the high school programs are doing. They're not out, breaking the rule. We're in a non-competition part of our state right now as well, and those guys aren't practicing. They're doing what's right for the kids, and those are the ones you want to associate with, and those are the guys I'm going to miss. When Mocan played in our area, I'd always go watch them practice. I'd get plays from them. I have their playbook. Those are the guys that you miss seeing, and I think that's what we're going to miss from this time we're in right now.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt, Greg, that what is really important, and I think it goes to whether you're a high school coach, whether you're an AAU coach, when your focus is on what's best for the kids that are part of your program, then you're going to end up making the kind of decisions that you and I, as defenders of the game of basketball, are going to be okay with, because they're kid-centered. And right now, if you're kid-centered, you're following the protocols. Whatever those protocols are, your priority is keeping kids healthy and safe and following the regulations that are set forth by your state government and by the CDC and whatever other health authorities are out there that are issuing the regulations of what you should be doing. And I think when we do get back, the programs that have continued to follow the rules and the programs that have coaches that care about kids, those are the ones that, as a high school coach, you want to send your players to. And as a parent of a player, you want to seek out and figure out and find out who are the reputable people in your area that are doing things correctly, and those are the programs and coaches that you want to send your kids to when it comes time for AAU season, whether that be some salvation of whatever's left of this summer or certainly in summers moving forward.
Absolutely.
The first quarter is in the books.
All right, it is time for quarter number 2. What you have learned since the pandemic has shut us down on March 13th.
So I started a list. I know most of your listeners will know who Coach Mike Neighbors is, University of Arkansas. He's become a really good friend of mine, a mentor, a guy he can red team a lot of things for me. I try to be involved, and I love watching this program and everything. But just one of the things we've talked about is, we actually made a list what we've learned from COVID. And I think the biggest one is this: there's always somebody operating with more information than you have. And that's the hard part about coaching. It's the hard part about, guys that want to be in control of things. I've learned the word less means more to me than anything right now. I've been trying to streamline everything in my life, in my basketball life, just less clutter, really declutterizing everything, becoming more organized. I've always thought I did a pretty good job of it, and I'm trying to get even better at it, cleaning up things. And really that's been the big thing I've learned. It's just, the information's out there. Our job to try to go find it, and then when we find it, what are we going to do with it? One of the things that's kind of funny, better form of words, better use of words, trying to make sure I can communicate clear. I love, there's a football coach here in the state of Arkansas. His name is Rick Jones, and one of these smartest people. He was at Greenwood High School, and they were a power. Now he's on staff at the University of Missouri, and I know Mike had studied, and visited with him a lot. And so I started kind of just digging through some things with Coach Jones. And it's intriguing to me how a football coach can say 4 words and move 11 players, and so I've started we like talking about better choice of words, better form of word. Mike had made a comment: if you could only ask one question, what would it be? And so that teaches you to ask better questions, and not just for people you're talking to, about basketball or anything else, but how you talk to your players, how you want to teach your players to question. So I think, I have 2 words I've really fallen back on: efficiency and less. And I think they kind of go together. We've been doing a lot of word association. Example is, what's the difference in constant and consistent, and you really got to study it, and you got to think, and you got to look at yourself and look at your program and look at how you speak. And I've tried to stop using the word right as an answer for correct. Just for a simple example is, if a player says, "Do you give me go left?" and I say right, and he just looks at me when I almost spent 20 seconds. No. Yeah. And so why not just change that word? Now I've made myself faster. Now I've made myself where I can talk less and practice. And I know people listening right now are going, "God, you talk all the time," but less and being more efficient has been the biggest thing I've learned through all this time right now.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. It kind of goes along when you shared this with me, and just hearing you talk right now, what comes to my mind and what I've learned since we've shut down is, one, I've learned how valuable time is. And when I think about how valuable time is, I realize that during the time when I'm working and podcasting and being a father and running a basketball business and doing all the other things that I like to do, that my time is really at a premium. And what this shutdown has allowed me to do is to be able to step back from that fullness of my schedule, that busyness of my schedule, and really look at how I'm spending my time and what I'm spending my time doing. And to your point about efficiency, looking at how can I be more efficient with how I allocate my time. And so what I've tried to do is look at, I've always had, I'm kind of a self-improvement guy. So I like reading those kinds of books and figuring out how I can implement better systems or how I can be more productive and how I can grow as a person. And so that's one of the things with more time that I've started to look at is, what are the systems that I try to operate in? And so I've taken to trying to do some journaling. I've taken to try to do some meditation. I've taken to trying to get organized on what are the things that I need to get done today, and don't let the distractions of the day take me away from what my most important goals are. And then the other thing that goes along with this is I've also, I think, learned to value the time with the people in my life that I care about. And sometimes you get into the crux of, you're going to work, you're teaching all day, and then you come home and you got this, and this kid's got to go to practice, and this one we got to go here, and then it's time for homework, and then before you know it, it's time for bed, and then I got to go to sleep and get up and do it all over again, or I got to do a podcast. And so I think, when you talk about efficiency and time, those are two things that I've learned that I think are going to help me when we get back to, quote, normal, whenever that is, that I'm going to be able to carry forward and make myself better. And I think that ultimately, to me, when I saw that topic that you shared about what you've learned, the first thing that struck me was people who have taken advantage of this time are going to come out on the other side of it so much stronger because they've taken the time to self-reflect. And that's what it's all about to me.
Oh, so I'm going to give you 4 fast nuggets inside our 4 corners. How about that? So the first one is there's a book called Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke that I would recommend every coach on any level read. And I could talk an hour on it. It's a great book. It's probably saved my coaching career. And that'll be a conversation we get into off the air, because like I said, I could talk all night on it.
All right.
So that would be number 1. The number 2, Alan Stein spoke on a Zoom with us, and he made a comment. Are you waiting to come out of this, or are you preparing to come out of it? And I think that's a nugget that everyone needs to kind of think about right now. The third nugget, Kevin Eastman, who we all like and love, and the motivated people and the successful people don't do time management; they do priority management. And when you look at it like that, that's as good as can be. It's a gospel, if you think about it like that. And then the fourth one, like I said, I've spent a lot of time visiting and listening to Coach Neighbors during this time and really the past few years since he's been here. But he made a comment a couple of weeks ago that was outstanding. And we're all taught to chase a balance in life. There's no balance. And you're talking about better form of word. When you think of balance, first thing I think of is a scale that's perfectly even. There's no balance in coaching. There's no balance in anyone chasing success. There's a rhythm. Now, when you think about a rhythm, and in your mind right now, you should be seeing like waves, up and down, up and down. And I'm not saying you got to come in and crash, but our lives have rhythms, and right now we were kind of out of rhythm. College coaches were used to be on the road. High school coaches were used to, kind of relaxing right now. Club coaches were used to taking off. This was their time to be traveling, and and that rhythm got wrecked. But when whatever normal is, whatever the new normal, if you chase balance, you're just going to beat yourself up. You've got to find a rhythm. Your family's got to understand the rhythm, that in January and February, like there's not a lot of sleep. There's not a lot of conversation at my house in those two, but I thought that was one of the most profound things I've heard, during this COVID was, quit chasing balance and find your rhythm.
Yeah, there's no doubt that we all have those times where things just need to get done. And then there's other times where you can afford to slow down. And like you said, if you're a high school basketball coach or you're a college basketball coach, you get used to the rhythm of your monthly schedule, your yearly schedule, and how things are going to go. And this is the time when I got to really put my nose to the grindstone. And here's the time where I can catch my breath and maybe do some planning behind the scenes and all those things. And so when you think about this time now, I think about, again, stepping back and evaluating the way that I've organized my life, both professionally and personally. And that's what I really feel like it's afforded me time to be able to do. And then hopefully, just like Alan Stein said, I'm preparing that when this is over, I'm going to have these new systems in place that are going to help me to be even more efficient, even more functional once things are back to normal, because I've put some time in reflecting when I had the time to be able to do that. Because a lot of times we just don't have time to step back the way we have during this shutdown period. None of us have the kind of time in our personal and professional lives that we've had over the last 5 or 6 months. We just have, we just haven't.
I think what we found is we've cut out the distractions. I've worked more this past, I know it's sad to say this, but I've worked more this past March, April, May than I probably have in my entire career in those 3 months, because those were my time to, recharge, wind down, catch up, and now, I don't have distraction. My home office is literally, in the backside of my living room right now. And, my kids aren't going to bother me because they don't, they're afraid I'm going to wake him, watch film or something. So no one's walking by the office wanting to talk. I haven't had to go do lunch duty. I've just worked, I've had uninterrupted work. And I think now when we go back to school in the fall, hopefully, not that I won't have time, I'll just understand how important that time is. And that's one that we've talked to our staff about that. We've talked about everything about, we've all got the time. It's just, we've got to protect that time. You're either going to invest it, waste it, or protect it. That's the three things you do with your time. You invest, you protect, or you waste.
And it comes down to, like you said, from Coach Neighbors, you got to prioritize. And if you have priorities, and that's actually one of the things that I've tried to do during this time is prioritize. Okay, here are the 3 things that professionally I need to get done today. And so when I start finding myself doing something else, I have it written down. I can look and go, okay, this isn't my priority. It might be something that's come in an email or something that I got to answer, but it's not my priority. So I got to go back and look at my priority. And I think when you start spending your time on your priorities, then you start becoming more productive without having to put more time in. You just end up spending your time on things that are more important to you, ultimately your success, whether that's success professionally or whether that's success however you want to define it in your personal life.
Yeah, and I think that's what we've all found out is what we can live without, what matters to us, and how we're going to keep that the priority when whatever. I hate saying going back to normal because I don't want to go back to what normal was. I don't want to go back to wasting my time. I like, one of the things I've done is, I love to read, but I always never found time to read because I didn't have time. Well, that's not true. I read 30 minutes a day now. And it's because I set it myself 30 minutes to read, and that means I turn my phone off. I get away from it. I go sit in a different part of the house to read. I either go outside. I can listen to an audiobook, while I'm doing some walk around my neighborhood, things like that. Just I'm kind of excited to go back, not just because it's normal or whatever you want to call it, but I'm excited to go back and share with people like, hey, this is who we are now. This is who we should be, and we've decluttered. And I think that'd be the number one thing I'd tell you. I think I've learned is just what I didn't need, I don't miss. And what I missed was, the interaction with the kids and things like that. But there's so many things that I was able to just get rid of that were wasting my time, that were taking time from me. And now I invest my time and I protect my time. And I think it's going to make us all better coaches when we go back.
That was the halftime buzzer. Let's take a quick break.
Coaches, we've teamed up with E3 Analytics so you can now purchase 3 of their exclusive new playbooks. If you're looking for ways to improve your team next season, these playbooks blend affordability with the quality content that serious coaches are looking for. Just visit hoopheadspod.com/store and you'll find playbooks from Coach Don Showalter of USA Basketball, Coach Mike Flynn from the Illawarra Hawks in Australia, who coached LaMelo Ball last season, and Coach Tyler Whitcomb from West Michigan Aviation Academy. Check out these great resources at hoopheadspod.com/store. Let's move on to quarter number 3. We talked about this a little bit before we jumped on. What happens if we don't play? What happens if high school sports doesn't come back for this entire school year?
I've come, we talked before, and I'll share with people the biggest complaint right now, and this will tie in, we'll talk about in the fourth quarter too, but my biggest complaint is people that don't plan. I mean, what have you been doing for the last 90 days? Have you just been sitting here thinking, people will tell you I'm negative by design. I've got about 4 doomsday plans right now that I know that are complete, and I'm working on about 7. Meaning if we're told, hey, you can't play, I have a plan to handle our ADs, to handle our directors, everything that says, well, what about this? Because nobody knew what was coming with this. There was no way and you could say, oh, we could see what was happening in Italy. We could see what's happening. No one knew, and we went through, I think teachers did a great job. I know some people weren't happy with them, but there's no one ever taught me how to teach in a pandemic. No one was prepared for it. And I think we did the best we can, and we're going to be better. But the thing is, like, what happens if we don't play football in the fall? I know, you see it every day. If you're following Twitter, there's college programs dropping programs. Tennis, what you would call, a minor sport. I mean, I think all sports are important because it's important that those athletes and those coaches, but it kind of bothers me that we're already making decisions like that far ahead, but that alarms me that, hey, this could be something else. And, we're right here on the cusp of July, and I've never been more excited. I love the TBT. Fran Fischella has been a good friend of mine, and I'm excited for him to be calling games, and I love that. I've never been more excited about TBT because I want not just because I miss basketball on TV, but I want to see them succeed. I want to see everybody stay safe, and I want to be in that sigh of relief that, okay, we can do this. And then in NBA, then Major League Baseball coming back. But I mean, we all know. I mean, if we don't play football in the fall, it's a real chance, a real possibility that we won't have basketball. And selfishly, my youngest son Evan's a senior this year, and he missed the last half of his junior season. He took a charge and had a major concussion, and he had just been cleared when the state tournament started. But the predicament we were in was if you play and you take another charge, if you get hit again, you could miss your senior year. So he opted, and I supported it as dad. Coach wanted to play, but as his dad, we set out, and we lose. And now we're sitting here thinking, we gambled that there would be a senior year. Now you're sitting here like, man, I hope, what if he never plays high school again? And so there's just so many negative thoughts that can creep in. But I think you got to use those negative thoughts to prepare. What happens if your superintendent comes to you and says, we're not playing? Or, do you have an answer to send to your state association that at least makes them think, like if there's other options, and safety is going to be first for the athletes. We all know that. But, there's that possibility. Like, this is the longest most of us have ever been it is the longest that we've not had sports in our life. And there's such a void in society, and you can feel it. I mean, when people, if someone's ever said, well, sport, it's not life or death. It's not life or death, but it is life. It's a life for a lot of us. Because
it sure is, yep.
I mean, I've seen sports save lives. I mean, I've seen it save a young man's life, a young woman's life. And so it's not life or death, but it is life, and it's life-giving, and it gives life to communities. There's some small towns all across our country that Friday night, the town, you turn the lights off, lock the doors because we're all going to the game, and I want that back for those towns. I want to go to a high school football game. I want to go to a high school volleyball game. I just want to feel that sense of community and support and safety, that it's okay to go back to living life, what we're used to and what we love and what we miss. And so I don't know, man. It's, we talked a little bit. There's days that I'm, Debbie Downer, we're never going to play again. What are we doing? Why am I spending all this time improving myself as a coach if I'm never going to coach another game? And then there's days that I'm like, it's going to work out. We're going to beat this thing. So I think the big answer is if we don't play, what's our next step? Like, how do we, class of 2020 went through a ton of stuff. A lot of those guys lost their spring. What happens if the class of 2021 loses everything? That's the things I worry about as a dad. But I feel we got great people in our state. And I know that other states associations are going to make great decisions, and we're going to do what's best for kids.
What's one option? Just give us one thing that you think as a proposal if the state of Arkansas says we're not going to play basketball this winter. What's something that you might suggest that could possibly be an alternative?
So the first thing, the one I sent out, and I've already sent this out to our my athletic director has a copy from all the schools. And Arkansas is different, and I know, and it wouldn't work for every landscape, but I'll tell you what we're doing just so you kind of get your wheels turning. Staying inside your county. For us, there are eight schools that are similar in size. I mean, there are four big schools, which are 4 6A schools. There is a 5A school and 3. Well, they're close enough that I think from one end to the other is 40 minutes is what I put down, or I looked it up. And anyway, you would have to use buses. Parents could drive kids. You play boys at one site, girls at another. That's going to limit the number of people in the gym. It allows parents to still watch. It's not ideal for a lot of places. Even in Arkansas, there's some counties that have one school and they would have to leave their county. But the other thing is, well, why would I want a small school to play, a big school? Well, you just want to get to play. I mean, basketball is a sport where it's not a manpower sport. Yeah. I mean, at that point, you just want to play. You don't want to say nothing. I mean, and I don't know of a coach in my area, and I know other coaches around the country, if you're the guy that you're playing a small school beating them 60, come on, man. You just want to see kids play and smile and feel normal. Yeah, you're going to play hard, and, there's going to be games you're going to have to, but those are games that those subs that never get to play in your normal conference would get to play. And it would be a memory for everybody involved, and I've talked to the guys in other part of the state. You need to have this plan just in case. Another one we've talked about is backing everything up to January. Let's give us a couple months of getting to school and getting things. Don't play football in the fall. Start athletics. January would be just your conference basketball. You might could start practicing the week after Christmas, none of these are idea, but these are just doomsday plan. So play your conference January, February. You finish in mid-March. Mid-March, you start track, baseball, softball, soccer, whatever other sports. Those guys would go mid-March through, March all the way through April. May 1, you start your football season. You play during the spring. You play May and into June. Everyone shuts down July, and you come back to school in August, hopefully, and get back on stream. But those are just those are those plans that you hope you never have to come to. But it's also I just did my CPR training today. I hope I never use it, but I've done it and I prepared, but it's one I hope I never use it. So maybe instead of doomsday plans, we should call them CPR plans or something. But, it's one of those things I've had a lot of time to think about a lot of things. And one of those is how can we ensure we get to play? And those are just a couple ideas I had.
Absolutely. I think the key there is just being proactive and trying to think about it, because like you said, it's easy to put your head in the sand and say, oh, we're definitely going to play. But the reality is that none of us know, and none of us have a firm grasp on what's going to happen moving forward and where we're going to be in terms of the number of cases and how people are feeling and the public sentiment and all this kind of thing. And so hopefully you're not the only person out there that is putting together some proactive plans, trying to figure out what this whole thing could potentially look like should we come to a realization that a normal, quote, normal season isn't possible. Well, then can we look at alternatives that can at least give the kids a chance to play, which ultimately is what we want to do. We just think about how I can't even imagine for a kid who was a spring athlete in 2020 and you don't get to play your senior year of high school. That doesn't come back. You don't get it back. And thinking about your son, Evan, and if basketball's canceled, then he doesn't get to play his entire senior season. 5 years from now, there's nothing there. He looks back on it. He doesn't have those memories. And that's, I think, where you have to start looking at how can we, if we can't play a normal season, how can we replace that with something that at least gives kids an opportunity to be able to participate. Again, with the caveat that whatever decision would be made with the health and safety of the student athletes at the forefront of that decision.
No, and that's the thing, no one's going to fault a parent for saying, hey, my son or daughter's not taking part in this, and it's we've started workouts. We've had great attendance because I think kids want to be back in the gym, and the hardest part is keep making them not be kids. It's not.
Yep.
I mean, they come in, they wear their mask. Once they test, they sign in, they do all their testing. They take their mask off. They get on the floor. They get a sweat going. And they just want to talk to each other and they want to hang out. And and you're like, hey, no high fives, no, get out of here. You can't sit here and talk. And that's the hardest part. But
yep.
I mean, that's been the strange part for me. I mean, they come in, the kids are resilient. They're going to do what they're supposed to do. But it's been interesting to watch as a dad. My son Hayden came home from college at spring break and never went back, and those guys. And I finished a book earlier this quarantine called Generation Z, Unfiltered. It's by Tim Elmore. He does a great job. This group, man, these kids we're coaching right now and the ones coming behind them, that they're kind of the homelanders is how he describes them. Like they've all grew up, they were all born after 9/11. So they've never lived in a world without fear of terrorism. From kindergarten, they've always had active shooter drills. I mean, these kids don't mind being at home. I mean, they feel safer in their own house, and so it's seeing some of these guys like open up, the kids that were quiet, the kids that I wouldn't say didn't have personality, but had a more reserved personality and they're laughing and wanting to be around. Like, I really think something good's coming from this. I mean, it's hard for me to not look at and I know we're going to talk about this in a minute, but I really feel there's something good going to come out of COVID. The time away, I think it's going to reconnect people. I hope there's some changes in education. I think it's going to be a time that we look back at and say, man, how crazy was that? But I think it's something we're going to be glad that made some changes for us.
I agree. And I think it goes back to the earlier conversations that we've had, that people who have gone into this with the idea that I'm going to look at it as an opportunity rather than looking at it as a problem, I think those are the people that are going to come out stronger. And I think generally speaking, those are going to be people who are going to lead on the way out. And as they lead on the way out, we are going to see change. We are going to see progress. We are going to see things that are going to be different. I think there's going to be an appreciation for some of the things that have been taken away from us. And I think that is the reality.
All right, listeners, it's time for the fourth quarter.
How do we see change in the world? Clearly, the pandemic, which we've been talking about for the first three quarters, has impacted us as coaches. It's impacted sports in a huge way. But we also have this greater social issue within our country, and clearly it's spread not only here but throughout the world with the police brutality issue, Black Lives Matter, the presidency, and all the ramifications that go with the things that people feel about wherever you stand politically. But I think what we wanted to talk about was, how do we make meaningful change? Because we can talk all we want, but what really matters is how can we go about changing some of the things that we want to see changed?
Well, first thing I'll say is this: I'm pro. I'm pro police officer. I think those people put themselves on the line for their community every day. They step out, and I think it's an honorable job. But with saying that, anyone that watched the video of George Floyd and wasn't stirred, as a human, I was disgusted. I can see it in my mind right now talking to you. That's not a police officer. That's not that was hatred, and that was and it was murder, and that. What I hate is that one, and I know there's been other instances, but that obviously was the boiling point and the awakening for a lot of people, like, hey, this needs to be talked about. And, we mentioned this before we came on. I think the biggest thing, everyone wants to see change. No one wants to be told they have to change. But everyone wants to see change. And I'm a guy that's grown up in the South my entire life. I had a conversation with a coach, that about prejudice, and he told me, so you don't understand. I said, actually, I do understand prejudice because I was a white guy going to the park. Like I had to prove I could play. I said, I understand prejudice, but I don't understand the fear that you have. If a cop pulls me over, my biggest fear is where's my registration and my insurance, not, And so I've talked to people more than I have in the past. I spoke with my current players and some former players about it, of how I can learn. I think a big thing, all of us have got to understand, we've got to quit listening to respond, and we have to listen to learn. And that's, I have that reputation of being a little outspoken on Twitter at times. And and I've learned now that I read and I think and I research and then I move on, because I have so many good things in my life that I don't have to argue with somebody about things, and I don't seek out the conflict. But with this, I think it touched on so many levels and with so many different people that, we're in a place for change, and there's so many easy targets to complain about. And I don't care if you love Trump, if you hate Trump. I don't care if you love Biden or if you hate Biden. I don't care if you love Obama. And I told you this, my personal life didn't really change much from President Bush to President Obama to President Trump. And somebody would say, well, it's because you're a white guy. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. But my life didn't change that much from them. My life changes when there are changes in local government. I mean, if you want to see real change, the first person, you got to start with yourself and with your family. But if you want to see real change in our world, how many people I have to get to think like me to change the White House? A lot. But change starts. I heard Frank Martin say this all the time. He's one of the few, and maybe there's more, but I can promise you that man talks about education being the answer more than any other Division I coach that I keep up with. And I think it starts with education. If you want to see change, get involved with your school board. Get involved with who's going to be sheriff of your county. Get involved with who's going to be mayor. Get involved with your state representatives and then your governor. Because, we see the big picture. And don't get me wrong, there's things that come out of the White House that I just like. Twitter's been a lot. Twitter's got to love the man, whether you agree or not. It's a show, but it's one of those, like, I understand that puts out a climate and a mentality for a lot of people. But my daily life is affected by what's going on in my community. And it starts with myself and then everything around. And so I don't know what the answer is. I really feel, obviously we're going to have an election in November, regardless of the outcome. There's been issues with race since the beginning of our country. The president, whether it's yes, no, right now, the current guy, whether it's the next guy, whether it was President Obama, we've always had that underlying issue. Well, one reason I think is because there's no education about it. Because in my experience, I didn't have an African American professor when I got to college. Well, in high school, it was never really talked about because that's one of those taboo subjects. And like right now, I read a thing about, I was talking to a friend about this with all the Confederate statues being torn down and everything. And I get that. And it's a negative, nasty part of but I don't want to forget the Confederacy. Now, I'll tell you this, I grew up in the South. I've never once been like, oh, that's my heritage. Number one, the Confederate flag, I don't know how you have anything for heritage for 4 years or less. The band Nirvana lasted longer than a Confederacy. It's like, it wasn't around long enough, I think, to be a heritage thing. But that's just my topic, and I'm ranting there. But anyway, it's that stuff. Like, I get it, but I don't want to forget that, and I want people to talk about the evils of it. I read a thing yesterday that in Germany, kids are reminded of how bad the Nazis were, and they take them to the concentration camps and show them the evils. I was a history major or a history minor with a P. So I've read all this stuff. I've been through all that. I understand it. But your normal, I say normal because I'm not real normal, but Your everyday citizen like doesn't have a clue about things because they don't talk because it's sensitive and you don't want to. We need to stop waiting to offend people about things now and be offensive in a educational setting and teach what happens. I don't know if you know this. The NABC put out, one of their Frank Martin's the head of the committee on race relations. They made a suggestion. I looked up how to get certified in it. I haven't taught history in 9 years. I would teach this class, African American history, because so many people don't know and they don't want to know. They don't want to talk about it, and you don't. And I told people this. I don't understand, but I want to. And the best way for me to understand is to learn. And the root of every issue we have, it's education. It's understanding and learning. I follow some people on Facebook's more of my family stuff and all that. But there's a lot of people I follow there that are really educated. I mean, college professors. And when I see them put a post that says, if you don't think like I think, unfriend me. That's why we're in the problem. That's why we're in the problem we're in. Because if you only surround yourself with people that think like you, then you don't know what other people think, and your bubble is there, and it blows your mind. I want somebody in my circle that challenges how I think. I want somebody that I have a difference of opinion in, because that's how I get better, and that's how I get smarter, and that's how I learn things. And you know what? We can argue and disagree. I'm still going to be your friend, and I'm still going to love you, and I'm going to learn. And that's, you see it all over the place. If you don't agree with me, then, I'm going to block you. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to cut you off. Like, no, if you don't agree with me, I want to listen to your side, and I want to learn from you. And, when you talk about police brutality and everything, and I think a lot of that just comes back to a lack of education, a lack of understanding, and a lack of empathy. I've been keeping up with it. I've been watching it. I've been trying to learn more. It's a sad time, but I think, again, it's a time of change. There's obviously things that I don't agree with, but there's things that I can, kind of understand and want to understand more. And, that's one of the things, being a coach, I think we have to work at that. I was watching a Zoom before we got on tonight, and a guy, his name's Chad Wright, he's former Navy SEAL. He made a comment: earn the right to be in the lane you're in, and that means by working hard, outwork people. If you're a coach listening to this, earn the right for that title every single day, not just when the day you win the interview, not the day you got your degree, not the day you got your club, set up. You have to earn the right to be in the lane you're in every day, and that's through education. If I go into a conversation with someone, I want to be the only time I go in not knowing is so I come out knowing. If you call me and let's have a conversation about any topic, I'm going to try to be ahead of you because I want to be educated about it. I want to ask the right questions. I want to listen. But I think right now, like, our country is so just unstable. And again, I mean, how whatever side you want to vote on, I mean, I get that. That's fine. Take that out. I heard Michael Lewis, who's one of my favorite authors, wrote Moneyball, has a great podcast called Against the Rules. I heard him make a comment the other day. Our country reminds him of a poorly coached team. Tons of talent and a lot of bad leadership. And I think, and you take it how you want to. I take it as there's bad leadership on both sides. I made a comment this other day, and this will be the last thing I say on it, unless we talk some more. Our country has given us Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Larry Bird, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice. The list goes on and on and on. These are the best two candidates for president we can get. Come on. I've seen, I'm a sports guy. I've seen the Mount Rushmore of sports come out of our country, and this is what I got to choose from. Like, come on, man. So I keep thinking, man, there's going to be greatness come out of this. It's been a weird situation. It's been eye-opening. It's been tear-jerking. It's been angering, but I love how much has been shared with coaches. I love I love what I'm learning about people that don't look like me, that that didn't grow up like me. And the big thing is just, I keep falling back on that, but it's just, you got to educate yourself. You got to learn. And the way you learn is you listen, but I think then you got to take what you learn and you have to, implement that in your life. And you got to want to change, and you got to want to make changes that are going to benefit everybody. So.
All right. I'm going to echo a couple things and just kind of try to put a bow on it. And I agree with you 100% that becoming educated about the history of race relations in our country is critically important. There's plenty of historical events and things that happened in the past that I was unaware of, that I would never have been taught in school growing up. And I think those are mistakes that we have to fix. So becoming educated is number one. How do you become educated? You listen. And I think that is critically important, that when someone else is talking, when someone else is sharing, you have to listen to what they have to say. And I think in our country, a lot of times, especially in the political arena, we have people talking and people on the other side who are, for whatever reason, ideologically opposed, don't listen. And when you do listen, you have to listen then with an open mind, with the idea that somebody can challenge your thought process. And that doesn't mean you give in to every idea that comes your way, but it does mean that you have to stop and you have to think about what's being said and you have to analyze it. And I know for me, if I just think about this whole situation and with George Floyd and the protests and everything that's gone on, I think what it's done for me is it's made me stop and try to put myself into another person's shoes and look at it from a different perspective. And you talked about what was going through your mind when there's a traffic stop and you're just hoping you can find your insurance card and your, and your driver's license. And that's your biggest worry. At no time in my life, and I'm sure in yours, did you ever worry about losing your life as a result of a traffic stop when you haven't done anything besides be speeding. And yet for the African-American population in our country, that's a reality every single day. That's a conversation that they have to have. And I think I've heard that said before, but I think that this situation has made me process and internalize more of what that means. And now I start to see situations where I don't think I would have seen them in the same way before. When I see an African-American walking down the street, I never would have thought twice about that. But now I think, could that person be nervous? Could they be worried that, hey, they're not supposed to be here? And could that result in something that could take away their freedom or even take away their life in some cases? And so I think what it comes down to is, as you said, if we want to make change, we have to educate ourselves. We have to listen. We have to keep an open mind. And then you have to take action. And taking action could mean participating in the protests. It could mean voting with whatever your conscience is when it comes to the elections this fall. And hopefully, if you have a majority of people doing those things, being open-minded, being educated, trying to learn from one another, then you're going to start to be able to see meaningful change. And I think the fact that the protests have taken on the large number of people that they have, and people of all different ages, of all different races that have participated in it, I think it shows you that there's a desire for things to change. Now, what we all need to do is figure out, how do we move the needle to make those changes? And that's what I'm hoping comes out of the situation, is that we are able to make our country, the world, our neighborhood, if we want to get down to the local level, which is what you talked about it. How do we make our neighborhood, our city, our state, our country, and then our world? How do we make it a better place for everybody? And I think that really is the key, is to be able to be educated, listen, have an open mind, and then figure out what needs to be done to make change.
No, and you're right. And, we're in a day where, I mean, we can get information at a fingertip, in a second, which is an awesome thing. It's also a very horrible thing. Like I had a thing today I saw where somebody posted a picture. Well, I Google it up and it's wrong, and I'm like, that's the problem. And I talked with a college administrator today, that one of the biggest issues we're dealing with is, like I get my information comes straight from our health department because they relay it to our activity association, goes to my athletic director. So I'm dealing with numbers that they're seeing, but my parents are dealing with the numbers that the media put out. And there's, how do you feel about the media? I mean, it's one of those, but, I argued with a gentleman. I mean, we're friends. I mean, I wouldn't say we're friends. I'd say we're acquaintances, because he was trying to group together the protesters with the rioters. And I said, no, that's not it. I said, if you look, a lot of those rioters weren't at the protest. They showed up to cause trouble, break things, and because they knew they could do it under an umbrella. I said, that's not right. That's not, that's not what, it was meant to be. And so it's a time right now where I just encourage, my players, my kids, even myself, you can't get caught up on a clickbait. You can't get caught up listening to things you don't believe, you don't know. It's real easy to hear something and be like, well, and it's not that. I have guys, we have some pretty, some heavy conversations. They're very, very anti our president right now. And that's fine. And I can play devil's advocate and say, well, what about this? Oh, and mainly because we're friends, but it's one of those, like, I'm going to make the most educated decision come November based on what I believe in and things of that nature. But what I do know is this: I'm going to treat people, regardless of their race, their sex, whatever, how I would want my sons treated. And I think that's the big thing, is if we ever just got away from political parties and got away from the narrative of how things are supposed to be, and really focus on what we believe as people and how we're going to treat people, regardless of who the president is, regardless of what, the media tells me. I mean, I just feel it comes down to change starts with you, and it starts in your community. And that's where we see major change. And hopefully it's getting there. I've seen a lot of great things, and just in our area, that have been very positive, and I see, but then again, if I look around and I try, I can see negative things too. And I think that's one of the things too, is you've got to wire yourself to search for positive, to search for education, to search for answers. So I don't know, it was a sad time for sure, but I do believe our country is going to be a better place, and this group of kids, like I was talking about, they're resilient. They're so smart. It's the smartest generation we've had. These kids their first toy was an iPad, and they're gonna do some great things. And if we can just keep everybody healthy and get back to school and back to athletics and back to being able to give your neighbor a hug and shake hands and everything else, I think it's a great thing. So,
well, I agree with you from the standpoint of how you treat people and how you want others to be treated. We go back to that golden rule. I think if we could all run our lives by that, which clearly at this point we haven't been able to do very successfully in a lot of cases, but if you can govern your life by that simple rule, you're going to end up in a lot better place. And that goes for coaching, that goes for politics, that goes for whatever. And then I guess I'll wrap it up by saying that I think one of the most encouraging things about this whole situation is that if 6 months ago you and I would have been having a conversation, we would have said, hey, 6 months from now, we're going to be on here talking about social justice and talking about equality and talking about making our world a better place on this 4 quarters. I think probably both of us would have said, nah, we're not going to be doing that. And the fact that it's putting us in a position to be able to have a conversation and think about it and consider what's going on in the world and where our place is in it and what we can do to try to make it better. To me, we're not the only two people out there having this conversation. There are lots of other people having that conversation. And I know from the coaches that I've talked to, and I'm sure you feel the same, and you shared some of that tonight, that there are lots of coaches all throughout the basketball world, and I'm sure other sports, that are having conversations with their teams, with their players about these situations. And because of that, I think that's where the educational process starts, and that's where we start to make meaningful change. And to me, that's what it's all about.
No, yeah, I think you're right on. And it's got to continue to happen too. That's the thing, is we've got to continue to have these conversations and continue to speak out. And, basketball coaches have always been some of the best leaders that I've known and studied. And I think it's another platform for us, but no, I think you're right.
That's game, man.
Greg, can't thank you enough for jumping on with us again tonight. Like we said off the top, can't believe that this is 4 Quarters episode number 6. Can't believe that you and I have known each other now for almost 2 years. And the fact that we've been able to develop a friendship across country, and just that we can come on and openly have a dialogue about some of the things that are both basketball related, pandemic related, social justice related. It's kind of amazing when you go back and think about just, again, developing a friendship over 2 years. And to me, that's really what it's all about, is getting to know people and having respect for them. And we appreciate you jumping out with us tonight. And to everyone out there, thanks for listening, and we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Hoop Heads podcast, presented by Head Start Basketball.